I shall try and resist. I've had a Rice Krispie bar and some grapes, if that counts. I'd say that counts. I've got a cup of tea as well, so we should be good to go. Thank you for your concern, though. Blake, thank you so much for being here. Rosa. Whoa, it's Rosa. Intermediate Ingrid, I'm sorry you're having a night of insomnia, but I hope you're doing well. Cody Wolfo Hyliana. Fantastic name. I'm still sorry I butcher it every time. Mina Flordy. Meow meow. Meow 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 meow. Meow. And again, Kooky Kitty, welcome. I'm glad you're doing well. Like I said, this is a very new style with me. So bear with me if there are suddenly any weird sounds, any kind of weird audio hiccups, and so on and so forth. It's not going to be perfect. But then again, nothing really is it? That's just life. Well, I have a list of every single Lovecraft story up in front of me, and I'm having a good look at them. Obviously, you have the classics, and you have the more kind of off-beaten path ones. I was going to see what you guys suggest. I played because my buddies are into it. I'm not the biggest fan, because the same conversation we had about Dead Island 2. I'm not sure. I'm thinking more of a short story than obviously one of the long ones. But if anyone's got any specific requests for a short story, any particular one that they'd like. I was thinking possibly Old Bugs, just to begin with. Colour Out of Space. Ooh. That looks quite good, doesn't it? That's a good length as well. Can certainly do that one. That would have split up the time quite nicely, I think, as well. No, for sure. Let me just get that one up. There we go. Well, yes, we're currently going to read some H.P Lovecraft, because that's been actually one of my most highly requested. Last time we read some Edgar Allan Poe, and on that stream, a lot of people were asking for Lovecraft. Now, I do have all my alerts on still. They might give you a jump scare. They do seem to be working though, which honestly is more than I could say they normally do. But that's positive in that sense. I don't have a couple of my redeems on, so if you do redeem them, I'll refund them for you. Just having a very basic, simple you, me, a good story, a cozy fireplace and thunder setting. Oh, and my loud ass transition. Before we get too comfortable, let's move over to the other scene. So my transition can scare the absolute shit out of you. Jump scare warning. Hello. Now, hopefully, when I press this button, if I have configured this correctly... Oh, I've got to put a tweet out. Oh well. There we go. Hopefully. It looks good. We do have some captions at the bottom. So if I mispronounce or if I stumble my words, we have some text to accompany with it. That way you can kind of understand what I'm reading, and hopefully it will pick up 9% of my words. We'll find out. Normally I try and do some silly voices and things for the characters, but because this is a soft reading stream, we're just going to keep it at this pace. We're going to keep it at the soft, gentle. I won't be doing any kind of goblin voices today. I'll do one of my other streams for that. Done. I've removed stand thingy so I can have it right in front of my mouth. No. Does this still sound okay without the padding? That's what we like. You can see that the web captioner doesn't like it though. Let me change the settings there. Like I said, it is software, so bear with me if it doesn't 100%. I'm saying S sounds. S and plosives. Seductive, saucy, saucepan. Puncturing, petty, pickles. How was that? You also have a yogurt about it. I mean, if you want to listen to me eat it, don't really. Hopefully I won't be moving my mic much. Well, I see this software is picking up every other word, which is, but also not. It says I'm too quiet, which does make sense, to be fair. Actually, I can't change the sensitivity of this program. If they did, that's very true. It is not a lot of people's cup of tea. Obviously, do remember that these works are of their time. Do that little announcement that you see at the TVs. Do remember that these are from the time era they were written. Some known language, along with beliefs and views which are no longer reflected in society. Please do remember that as we're reading these works. Be nice to your eldritch demons. It is your job, chat, to keep you well and hydrated because I will end up sounding like a frog at some point. I hydrated because I rolled up Santa. Where did it read rolled up Santa from? Oh, I have a feeling this captioning is going to be ever so fun. Fun. There's an N at the end of that.
I'm in it, bro. For fuck's sake.
Thank you for the hydrate, indeed. Your voice has me flustered. Oh my. Well, maybe. I should say some other things then. Some sweet nothings to you, perhaps. Fine, we're all getting cozy together. My job is done. Indeed it is. I've got my cup of tea. As I said, I've got my yogurt, which I'm silently nibbling. Hopefully you can't hear me. For those who don't know, it's currently 8:30 in the morning for me. Bear with. As I slowly wake up, I might get loud again. Just tell me off. I am not at all a professional in this. If anything, I feel rather not uncomfortable. I feel a bit lost. So, without further ado, I hope you're comfortable. I hope you've got some snackies. And never mind, I still forgot to put out a door. Bear with me. You're going to hear some tippy taps. Tippy tap. People at ASMR, oh, you like the tippy taps, do you? People like the tippy taps. I'm often told off for it when I'm streaming. Oh, keyboard, how dare you? Dare you make noise? That's not your voice. Like, well, I'm sorry. There's something called an environment around. Let me just get this sorted. Said. I didn't label this as ASMR because I don't feel like I have the authority to do so yet. No idea. It's a link to my own channel. I should really have it tabbed by now. Instead, I open Twitch to my channel and then because I'm a delinquent and why do things the easy way? Posted. Close the Twitter because I don't want to see what kind of degeneracy is going on. Caption software. So I chose you because you were the best one. I spent about 20 minutes cropping you, so please work. We're going to have some words. To end up throwing it down. So platonically gay for you right now. I'll take. Bit platonically. I know. I feel like there is a whole kind of stream ASMR artists though who get a bit pinickety if you go into their very nasty comments before. Rather just avoid that. Rather just vibe. Some but it's really cute. Do a little munch. See my munch. It's my soul. That's sacrilegious. My tea is cold. I'd like to make a complaint. I think I've teased you long enough. Put on some ambience. So again, if it's really loud, bear with me. Sort out the volumes. So let me know if I'm trying. Volume gain up, whatever. Yeah, let's learn together, read together, and just get all cozy. It's a snug Sunday.
Tea time in it, bro, for fuck's sake. Tea time in it, bro, for fuck's sake. Tea time in it, bro, for fuck's sake.
At Astro VT, thank you for the hydrate. Fantastic job. I want to give you a promotion at this rate. Delightful. How is this background? A little bit of thunder in there for you. Elizabeth Thunder. A bit of thunder. It's a library amp, so there should be a little book reading. Flipping pages, because there's a crack. Some rain. Which in my opinion is the cozy setting. I love nothing more than curling up, blanket, it's hot drink, watching the rain. That's gonna be a problem. It's him. I'm really scared. Thank you so much for the wonderful thing. Tell you what I do. I'm mute. I feel like we're just gonna end up jump scaring ourselves. So I'm gonna turn my alerts off and some things. Again, apologies if you can hear traffic and stuff in the background. Set up to be my studio. Bedroom is to street. 2 cats and a very yappy dog. The problem is that I don't know how to mute because I'm rubbish. Because they're a browser source and let me... Well, actually no, it says control audio, doesn't it? Do that. Press that button. Then press that button. Hopefully it should have muted them. But thank you so much for the follow. Very good. This is something... See a hydrate without a cooldown. My furry little pizza hands need to be bound. So stop drowning whoever's on screen. Well, we learned some self-control in my... Also noticed that none of mine are updating top, which is upsetting me. What is the point? What is the point of that? They're not updating. We're doing well, so we're just going to turn them off. We don't want any distraction. Let's get rid of these. Go. I'll sort those out. One thing at a time. One thing at a time. That's okay in life, but to take things one step at a time. At your pace. Loving the background noise, I'm glad. I can see it's a nice volume, so we should be good. So. Sitting comfortably. go up there. Difficult. I should probably add a little text source just to say what we're reading. Text. You want any specific font? I normally use Frederica, but I can't see it here. Dare it not be there. The audacity. Nothing like consistency. There's no background to it either. Again, you wouldn't believe I had all of this sorted. There we go. That's what we want. Pick a nice screen color as well. There we go. That's better. No, just do your thing. Just behave. Where should we shove this? We'll just shove this in this corner. Enjoy your corner. Color Out of Space by H.P Lovecraft. Of chat, that way I can see the lamp. You like the lamp? You enjoy the lamp, do you? It's kind of hidden at the moment by the... but I'll pop it in this corner instead. Just for you. Lamp, best part of stream. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. West of Arkham, the hills rise wild. Valleys of deep woods that no one has ever cut. Dark, narrow glens where the trees slope mystically, where thin brooklets trickle. Sunlight. The gentler slopes there are far, ancient, rocky, squat, moss-coated cottages brooding at secrets. These are all vacant now. The chimneys crumble, the shingled sides bulging perilously beneath the low gambrel. The old folk have gone away. The foreigners do not like to live there. Canadians have tried it. Italians have. And the Poles have come and departed. It is not because of anything that can be seen, because of something that is imagined. The place is not good, the imagination. Not bring restful dreams in. It must be this which keeps the foreigners away, for old Amy Pierce has never told from the strange day. Amy has always been a little bit queer for years. Is the only one who still remains. Never talks of the strange day. He dares to do it because his house is so near the open roads and the travelled roads are threatened. There was once a road over the hills and through the valleys that ran straight blasted heaths now. people ceased to use it. The road was laid curving far towards the south. Traces of the old ones can still be found amidst the weeds of returning wilderness. Some of them doubtless linger even when half the hollows are flooded. Then the dark woods will be cut down. The blasted heath will slumber far below blue waters, whose surface will mirror the sky from the sun. The secrets of the strange days will be one of the secrets, the hidden law of ocean, or the mystery of primal. When I went into the hills and vales to survey for the reservoir, they told me the place was evil. They told me there's an ark, because that is a very old town full of witch legends. I thought the evil must be something which Grandma whispered to children throughout the century. The name, Blooded Heath, seemed to me very odd and theatrical, and I wondered how it had come to the folklore of the Puritan people. And then I saw the dark westward tangle of glens and slopes for myself, ceased to wonder at besides its own mystery. It was morning, I saw it, but shadow lurked always there. Trees grew too thickly, and their trunks were too big for any healthy New England. There was too much silence in the dim alleys between them. The floor was too soft with dankness and mountains of decay. The open spaces, mostly along the line of the road, there were little hillside farms, sometimes all buildings standing, sometimes with only one or two, sometimes with only a lone chimney, fast filling cellar. And breeze around, furtive wild things rustled. On everything was a haze of restlessness and depression, a touch of the unreal and the grotesque, as if some vital element of perspective chiaroscuro. I did not wonder the foragers would not stay, for this was no region to sleep in. It was too much like a landscape, Salvatore Rosa, too much like some forbidden woodcut, tale of terror. Even all this was not so bad as the blasted heath. I knew it the moment I came upon it at the bottom of the suspicious valley, for no other name could fit such a thing, or any other thing fit such a name. It was as if the poet had coined the phrase from having seen this one particular region. It must, I thought, as I viewed, be the outcome of a fire. But why had nothing new ever grown over those 5 acres of desolation that sprawled open to the skyline, spotted by acid woods and fields? Lay largely to the north of the ancient. Approached a little on the other side. I felt an odd reluctance about approaching, and did so at last only because my business took me past it. There was no vegetation of any kind on the broad expanse, but only a fine grey dust or ash which no wind seems to ever blow about. Trees near it were sickly, stunted, and many dead trunks stood or lay rotting. As I walked hurriedly by, I saw the tumbled bricks and stones of the old chimney and cellar. Morning, abandoned well. The stagnant vapours played strange tricks with the hues of the sunlight. Even the long, dark climb beyond seemed welcome in contrast. I marvelled no more at the frightened whispers of the Arkham people. There had been no house or ruin. This must have been twilight, dreading to pass that ominous spot. I walked circuitously back to the town, curving road south. I vaguely wished some clouds would gather. An odd timidity about the deep skyey voids above had crept into my soul. Evening, I asked old people in Arkham about the blasted heath, and what was meant by that phrase, strange days, which so many previously muttered. I could not, however, get any good answers, except that all the mystery was much more recent than it was not a matter of old legend at all. Something within the time spoke. It had happened in the 80s. The family had disappeared, was killed. Speakers would not be exact, and because they all told me to pay no attention to old Amy Peters's crazy tales, I sought him out the next morning, having heard that he lived alone in an ancient tottering cottage where it first began. It was a fearsomely archaic place, and begun to exude the faint miasmal odor which clings about houses that have stood too. I knew with persistent knocking could I rouse the agent, and when he shuffled timidly to the door, I could tell he was not glad to see me. It was not so feeble as I had suspected, but his eyes drooped in a curious way. Unkempt clothing and white beard seemed very dismal. Knowing just how he could best be launched on his tales, I feigned a matter of business. Surveying, asked vague questions about the district. It was far brighter and educated. Before I knew it, I had grasped quite as much of the subject as any man. It's not like other rustics, like sections of Wordsworth to be. From him, there were no protests at the miles of old wooden farmland blotted out. Though perhaps there would have been, as I hope not lain outside the bounds of a future lake. Relief was all that issued. Relief at the doom of the dark which he had roamed. They were better under water now. Better under water since the strange days. And with this opening, his husky voice sank. His body leaned forward, his right forefinger to point shakily, passively. Sorry, my tea broke me. It was then that I heard the story. As the rambling voice scraped and whispered on, shivered again, despite the summer's day. Often, difficult to speaker from scientific points which he knew only by a faint parrot as tall. Bridge over gaps with a sense of logic and continuity broke down. Sorry, it was just me drinking some tea. Every time I take a drink, just to glitch out. Good morning, and it's a phrase you won't find saying. When he was done, I did not wonder that his mind had snapped a trifle. Folk of Arkham would speak much blasted. I hurried back before sunset to my hotel, unwilling to have the stars come out above me. The next day returned to Boston to give up my position. I could not go into that dim chaos with the old Boston slope again. Placed another time at great blasted heath, the black well yawned, sized the tumbled bricks and stones. The reservoir will soon be built now. All those elder secrets will be safe forever under the watery. But even then, I did not believe I'd visit that country by night. At least, not when the sinister stars are out. Nothing could bribe me to drink the city water. It all began, old Amy said, with the meteorite. Before that time there had been no wild legends at all since the witch trials, and even then these western woods were not feared half so much as the small island Zacatonic, where the devil held court beside a curious stone altar older than. These were not haunted woods, and their fantastic dusk was never terrible to the strange. Then there had come that white noontide cloud, a string of explosions in the air, and the great pillar of smoke. Ah. By night, all Arkham had heard of the great rock that fell out the sky and bedded itself on the ground beside the well. That was the house which had stood there for the blasted years to come. The trim white Norham gardener's house amidst his fertile gardens and orchards. Norham had come to town to tell people about the stone, and had dropped in at Amy Pierce on the way. Amy was 40 then. All the queer things were fixed very strongly in his mind. He and his wife had gone with the 3 professors from the Miskatonic. Wasn't doubt the next see the weird winter from stellar space, and had wondered why Norham had called it so large. It had shrunk. Norham said he pointed out the big brownish mound above the ripped earth, and the charred grass near the archaic well sweep in the front yard. But the wise man answered that stones do not shrink. The heat lingered persistently. Norham declared it glowed faintly in the night. The professors tried it with the geologist's hammer and found it was oddly soft. It was, in truth, so soft as to almost plastic. They gouged rather than chipped a specimen to take back to the college for testing. They took it to an old pail borrowed from the kitchen. Even a small piece refused to grow. On the trip back, they stopped at Amy's to rest. It seemed thoughtful when Mrs. Pierce remarked that the room was growing smaller, burning, pale. Really, it was not large, but perhaps they had taken less than they thought. The day after that, all of this was in June of '82. The professors had trooped out again in great excitement. As they passed Amy's, they told him what queer things the specimen had, and how it faded wholly away, put it in the speaker. The speaker had gone too. The wise men talked of the strange stone's affinity for silicon. Had acted quite unbelievably in that well-ordered, doing nothing at all and assuring no occluded gases when heated on charcoal, being wholly negative, and soon proving itself absolutely volatile at any producible temperature, including that of the oxyhydrogen blowpipe. On an anvil it appeared highly malleable, and in the dark its luminosity was very mild. Stubbornly refused to cool, soon had it in a state of excitement, and when upon heating before the spectroscope, it displayed shining bands unlike any known colours of the normal spectrum. There was much breathless talk of new elements, bizarre optical properties, other things which puzzled men in science, on what to say. But as it was, they tested it in a crucible with all proper reagents. Water did nothing. Hydrochloric acid was the same, and nitric acid and even aqua really hissed and spattered against its torrid invulnerability. Amy had difficulty in recalling these things, but recognized some solvents and mentioned them. Besides, there were ammonia and caustic soda, alcohol and ether, nauseous carbon disulfide, and a dozen others. But although the weight grew steady and less as time passed, the fragments seemed to be slightly. There was no change in the solvents to shew that they had attacked the substance at all. It was a metal, though beyond a doubt it was magnetic for one thing, and after its immersion in the acid solvents, there seemed to be faint traces of the one metals found on the meteoric iron. When the cooling had grown very considerable, the testing was carried out on glass, and it was in a glass beaker that they left all the chips made of the original fragments during the next morning. Both chips and beaker were gone without a trace, and only a charred spot marked the place on the wooden shelf where they had been. All this the professors told Amy as they paused at his door, and once more he went with them to see the stony messenger from the stars. Though this time his wife did not. It had now most certainly shrunk, and even the sober professors could not doubt the truth they saw. All around the dwindling brown lump near the walls, vacant space, except where the earth had moved in, whereas it had been a good 7 feet across. It was now scarcely 5. It was still hot, and the sages studied its surface curiously as they dispatched another, larger piece with a chisel. They gorged deeply this time, and as they pried away the smaller mass, they saw that the core was not quite homogeneous. They had uncovered what seemed to be the side of a large coloured globule embedded in substance, colour which resembled some of the bands in a strange spectrum, but almost impossible to describe. It was only by analogy that they called it a colour at all. Its texture was glossy, and upon tapping it appeared to promise both brittleness and hollowness. One of the professors gave it a smart blow with the hammer, and it burst of a nervous little pop. Nothing was admitted, and all trace of the thing vanished with the puncturing, left behind a hollow spherical space about 3 inches across, and, although it probable that others would be discovered, as the substance wasted. Conjecture was vain, so, after a futile attempt to additionally by drilling, the seekers left again with their new specimen, which proved, however, as baffling as its predecessor had. Aside from being almost plastic, having neat magnetism, slight luminosity, being slightly in powerful acids, and possessing spectrum, wasting away, attacking significant compounds in mutual destruction. It presented no identifying features whatsoever, and at the end of the test, the college scientists were forced to own that they could not place it. It was nothing of this earth, but a piece of the great outside, and as such dowered with the outside properties and obedient to outside laws. That night there was a thunderstorm, and when the professors went out to Norham's the next day, they met with a bitter disappointment. The stone, magnetic had it been, must have had some peculiar electrical property, where it had drawn the lightning, as Norham said, with singular persistence. 6 times within an hour the farmer saw the lightning strike the burrow in the yard. When the storm was over, nothing remained but a ragged pit by the ancient well sweep, half choked with caved-in. Digging had borne no fruit, and the scientists verified the fact of the utter vanishment. The failure was total, so that nothing was left to do but go back to the laboratory and test again the disappearing fragment left carefully placed in lead. That fragment lasted but a week, at the end of which nothing of value had been learned from it. When it had gone, no residue was left behind, and in time professors felt scarcely sure they had indeed seen the cryptid vestige of the fifth gulps outside, that lone, weird message from other universes and other realms, matter, force, and As was natural, the Arkham papers made much of the incident with his collegiate sponsoring, sent reporters to talk about Noah Gardner and his family. At least one Boston daily also sent a scribe, and Norman quickly became a kind of local celebrity. He was a lean, genial person of about 50, living with his wife, 3 sons on a pleasant farmstead in the Amy exchanged visits frequently with their wives, and Amy had nothing but praise for him over the years. He seemed slightly proud of the notice his place had. Talked often of the meteorite in his succeeding years. That July and August were hot, and Norman worked hard at his hay 10-acre pasture across Chapman's Brook. His rattling wain ruts in the shadowy lakes between. The labour tired him more than it had in other years, and he felt that the age was beginning to tell on him. Then fell the time of fruit and harvest. Pears and apples slowly ripened, and Norman vowed that his orchards were prospering as never before. Fruit was growing to phenomenal size and unwanted gloss, and in such abundance that extra barrels were ordered. But with the ripening came sore disappointment. All of that gorgeous array of specious lusciousness, not one single jot was fit to eat. Into the fine flavour of the pears and apples had crept a stealthy bitterness and sickishness, so that even the smallest of bites induced a lasting disgust. It was the same with the melons and the tomatoes, and Norham sadly saw his entire crop was lost. Quick to connect the events, he declared that the meteorite had poisoned the soil, and thanked heaven that most of the other crops were in the upland. Winter came early, and was very cold. Arby saw Newham less often than usual, and observed that he began to look worried. The rest of his family, too, seemed to have grown taciturn, and were far from steady in their church-going or their attendance at the various social events of the country. For this reserve or melancholy no cause could be found, but all the household confessed now then to poorer health and a feeling of vague disquiet. Norham himself gave the most definite statement of anyone when he said he was disturbed about certain footprints in the snow. They were the usual winter prints of red squirrels, white rabbits, and foxes, but the brooding farmer possessed to see something not quite right about their nature and arrangement. It was never specific, but appeared to think that they were not as characteristic of the anatomy and habits of the squirrels, rabbits, and foxes as they ought to be. Amy listened with interest to his talk until one night when he drove past Norham's house in his sleigh on the way back from it had been a moon, and a rabbit had run across the road, and the leaps of the rabbit were longer than either Amy or his horse liked. The latter, indeed, had always run away when brought up firm by a rein. Thereafter, Amy gave Norham's taste more respect, and wondered why the gardener dog seemed so cowed and quivering. They had, well, developed, nearly lost the spirit to bark. February, the McGregor boys from Meadow Hill were out shooting woodchucks, and not far from the gardens bagged a very peculiar specimen. The proportions of his body seemed slightly altered in a queer way impossible to describe, while his face had taken on an expression which no one ever saw in a woodchuck before. The boys were genuinely frightened, and threw the thing away at once so that their grotesque tales of it ever reached the people of the countryside. But the shying of the horses near Norham's house had now become an acknowledged thing, and all the basis for a cycle of whispered legend was fast. People vowed that the snow melted faster around Norham than it did anywhere else, and early in March there was an odd discussion in Potter's General Store at Clark Courts. Stephen Rice had driven past gardeners in the morning and had noticed the skunk cabbages coming up through the mud across. Never were things of such a size seen before, and they held strange colours that could not but be put into any. The shapes were monstrous, and the horses snorted an odour when struck stiffness wholly unprecedented. That afternoon, several persons drove past to see the abnormal growth. All agreed that the plants of that kind were never to sprout in it. The bad fruit of the fall was before freely mentioned. It went from mouth to mouth that there was poison. Of course it was the meteorite. And remembering about the strange men from college and the stone to be, several farmers spoke about the matter to them. One day they paid Norm a visit, but having no love of tales and folklore, very conservative and bird. Plants were certainly, but all skunk cabbages are more or less odd in shape. Perhaps some mineral element from the stone had entered the soil, but it would soon be washed away. And as for the footprints and frightened horses, of course, this was mere country talk, such phenomenon as the aerolite to be certain to the start. There was really nothing for serious men to do in cases of wild gossip. The superstitious rustics will believe anything and believe. And so, all the strange days, the professor stayed away and contemplated. Only one of them, when given 2 phials of dust for analysis in a police drop over a year and a half later, called at the queer colour of the skunk cabbage, been very much like the one of the anomalous bands of light shewn by the meteor in the college spectroscope, and like the brittle globule found embedded in the stone from the 5th. Samples in this analysis gave case to the same odd bands at first, though later. Little advert is about to start, and unfortunately I cannot pause it. I will be finding it for those who are still here. Vanished to the advert. Is it okay? I need to slow down. That is very much appreciated. Great. Ironically, I'm making myself quite sleepy. Said, those who are still here, thank you for being here. I hope you're having a wonderful Sunday. I hope you should relax and helping you somehow. Whether you're doing chores, whether you're doing, hope you yourself. Thank you so much. Speed is fine. Love hearing you speak as oh, you're too kind, thank you. These ads take a while, don't they? It says it's been starting soon. There we go. It's been warning me it's going to start soon, like 2 minutes? Yeah, child. Like I said, apologies on fumbling some words and pronunciations. But a moth after. should stretch. Yum, 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 yum. Back ways up. About 30 more seconds. Get back. A little stretch. Have a little adjustment. And do my cat scratch. The cat scratching pole. Good you go. There we go. Welcome back from Adland, everyone. Outland? No, Adland. There you go. I don't know how accurate these captions are being. Trees budded prematurely around Norham's, and at night they swayed ominously in the wind. Norham's second son, Thaddeus, say Thaddeus, at a lad of 15, saw that they swayed also when there was no wind, but even the gossips would not credit this. Certainly, however, restlessness was in the air. The entire Gardner family developed the habit of stealthily listening, though not for a sound which they could consistently know. Listening was indeed rather a product of moments when the consciousness seemed to slip half away. Unfortunately, such moments increased week by week, till it became common speech as something wrong. All Norman's faults. Enjoy your insomnia, Smashy Bros. Full time. Thank you for the lurk. Ironical. Welcome in. It is lovely to have you. Thank you so much for the follow. That's very kind of you. And I'm glad I got your name right. But I'm attempting to read correctly from this text as well, but we'll get there. But welcome in, thank you for the follow. Normally a lot more chaotic, but welcome to Snug Sunday. Well, that's what I thought, Bionicle. Oh, my friend used to have some wonderful Bionicles. They weren't really my cup of tea, but my friend, so many, and we always ended up playing with them. When the early saccharage came out, it had another strange colour. Not quite like that of the skunk cabbage, but plainly related and equally unknown to anyone who saw it. Norman took some blossoms to Arkham and showed them to the editor of the Gazette, but that dignitary did no more than write a humorous article about them, in which the dark fears of rustics were held up to be polite. It was a mistake of Norm's to tell the stolid city man about the way of the great overgrown mourning cloak of butterflies, and how they behaved in connection with these sacrifices. That's the only thing about reading these texts. Don't use some fancy language. I would buy some, but rent is expensive and everything's expensive. That's very... April brought a kind of madness to the country folk, and began the disuse of over past norms which led to its ultimate abandonment. It was the vegetation. All of the orchard trees blossomed forth in strange colours, and through the stony soil of the yard, vegetation, pasturage, there sprang up a bizarre growth which only a botanist could connect with the proper flora of the room. No sane, wholesome colours were anywhere to be seen, except in the green grass and leaf. But everywhere those hectic and prismatic variants, and of some disease, underlying primary had a place among the tints of earth. The Dutchman's breeches became a thing of sinister menace, and the bloodroots grew insolent in the chromatic perversion. Amy and the gardeners thought that most of the colours had a sort of haunting familiarity, and decided that they reminded one of the brittle globule. Norham ploughed and sowed the 10-acre pasture, and then uplanded lot, but did nothing with the land around the house. He knew it being no use, and hoped that the summer's strange growth would draw all the poison from the soil. He was prepared for almost anything now, and had grown used to the sense of something near him waiting to be heard. The shunning of his house by the neighbours told on him, of course, but told on his wife more. The boys were better off, being at school each day, but they could not help being frightened by the gossip. Thaddeus, an especially sensitive youth, suffered the most. In May, the insects came, and Norm's place became a nightmare of buzzing and crawling. Most of the creatures seemed not quite their usual in aspects and motion, and their nocturnal habits contradicted all of experience. The gardeners took to watching at night, watching in all directions at random for something. They could not tell what. It was then that they all owned that Thaddeus had been right about the trees. Mrs. Gardner was the next to see it from the window as she watched the swollen boles of a maple against a moonlit sky. The boles surely did move, and there was no wind. It must be the sap. Strangeness had come into everything. Yet it was none of the Norhams family at all who made the next discovery. Familiarity had dulled them, and what they could not see was a glimpse by a timid windmill salesman from Bolton, who drove by one night of the country regions. What he told the Narcombe was given a short paragraph in the Gazette. It was there that all the farmers, Norham included, saw it at first. Nezuko Kamado 88, welcome in. Thank you so much for the follow. Unfortunately, I haven't got my redeems on at the moment, so I'll refund that bad mod for. But thank you so much for the follow. Welcome in. Hope you're doing well. Are you lightning because you're a McQueen? Don't. I'm a giggly being as it is. I'm trying to be for everyone. It's reading. Be much more of a chaotic gremlin. Don't you get me giggling. On a cuppa and a scone of jam and cream. Oh, that sounds so good right now. I would adore that. There's nothing better than a wonderful afternoon tea. If you haven't tried British scone, depending what you say, jam and cream, I highly recommend it. Love the stream. Watch the VOD later because I've got to go. No worries. You take care of yourself. Have a wonderful day or evening. Thank you for stopping on by. Oh, and thank you for the look. That's very sweet of you. Jessica, we actually had this discussion yesterday on my stream about the scones and biscuits. Now they're slightly different. Apparently they're more like, like dumplings, breaded dumplings, apparently. Texture. Rather than actual biscuits. But yes, they do cool. Yeah, it does annoy me, I confirm. Living in America is tough. I mean, I say it all the time, but what blows me about America is just how big it is. Like, the fact that you guys just casually drive 2 hours to go to the supermarket or something. Like, what? Complain when anything's more than an hour away in the UK. I don't know why they're called dumpling. I'd like to blame the Americans for that. I think they do it just to get under our skin. I think the back cave, but it's Stop, you're gonna get me giggling. Bad chat. What he told in Arkham was given a short paragraph in the Gazette, and it was there that all the farmers. See, you distracted me now. Blame the car industry for its decades of lobbying for walkable cities. Oh, it has to be pavement. It can't be sidewalk. It has to be pavement. Sidewalk? Who says sidewalk? Sidewalk just doesn't make sense to me. It really doesn't. I mean, I understand it's a side and a walk. The little husky prince. Oh, it's an adorable name. Welcome in, my love. Thank you ever so much for the follow, and welcome to Snug Sundays. Instead of me shouting into like a maniac, I whisper softly. You guys can hear me choke on. Hello, welcome in. I hope you're doing okay. Sidewalk. I mean, it all depends on what you were raised with. But 100% pavements. Same as a elevator is a lift, and pants are, well, knickers, not trousers. I still need to do that British v American stream with friends. Need to find out some more lingo or words that some conflict, perhaps. Really? Out of all of the things, that's what they get pernickety about. Wow. Well, that makes me giggle. That really does. That shows you where their priorities are, doesn't it? What I'm more curious is why the fries are called hot chips, but the potato chip is just chips. We just call chips chips, as in like what you would call hot fries. No, they definitely do. In England, chips are just chips, and potato chips are crisps. Call them crisps. What he told in Arkham was given a short paragraph in the Gazette. It was there that all the farmers, not included, saw it at first. The night had been dark, the buggy lamps faint, but around a farm in the valley which everyone knew from accounts must be Norman's, the darkness had been less thick. A dim, though distant luminosity seemed to inhale vegetation, grass, leaves, and blossoms alike. While at one moment a detached piece of the phosphorescence appeared to stir fervently in the yard and barn. The grass had so far seemed untouched. The calves were freely pastured near the house. But toward the end of May, the milk began to be bad. Then, Norm had the cows driven to the uplands, after which the trouble ceased. Not long after this change in the grass and leaves became apparent to the eye. All of the verdure was going grey, was developing a highly singular quality of bitterness. Sammy was now the only person who had ever visited this place. His visits were becoming fewer. When school closed, the gardeners were virtually cut off from them, and sometimes let Amy do their errands. They were feigning curiosity both physically and mentally, and no one was surprised when the news of Mrs. Gardner's madness stole around. It happened in June, around the anniversary of the man's fall, and the poor woman screamed about things in the air which she could not describe. In her raving there was not a single specific noun, verbs and pronouns. The way things moved, changed, and fluttered, all ears tingled in pulses which were not wholly sounds. Something was taken away. She was being drained of something. Something was fastening itself to her. Someone must make it off. Nothing was ever still. And the walls and windows shuffled. Do you call these things chips instead of crispity, crunchy, munchy, cracker that snack and nibble the crack and pop West Fudge? That's rather cringe, brother, isn't it? It's just a bit cringe. Oh well, I'll pick that up later. Nora did not send her to the county asylum, but let her wander about the house as long as she was harmless to herself and others. Even when her expression changed, But when the boys grew afraid of her, and Thaddeus nearly fainted at the way she made faces at him, decided to keep her locked in there. Taking a break, your fingers hurt no. Well done for doing the work that you've done. Proud of yourself. No matter how small or how large it is, any work is good progress. Remember that. By July, she had ceased to speak and crawled on all fours, and before that month was over, Norman with the mad notion that she was slightly loose in the dark, as he now clearly saw was the case with the near vegetation. It was a little before this that the horses had stampeded. Something had aroused them in the night, and the neighing and kicking in the stalls had been terrible. There seemed virtually nothing to do to calm them, and when Norham opened the stable door, they all bolted out like frightened woodland. It took a week to track all four, and when they were found, they were seen to be quite useless and unmanageable. Something had snapped in their brains. Each one had to be shot for its own good. Norham borrowed a horse from Amy for his staying, but found it would not approach the barn. It sheared, balked, and in the end he could do nothing but drive it into the yard, while the men used their own strength to get the heavy wagon near enough to the hayloft. Pitching. And all while the vegetation was turning brittle. Even the flowers whose hues had been so strange were greying now, and the fruit was coming out grey, dwarf, useless. The asters and goldenrod bloomed grey and distorted. The roses and zinnias and hollyhocks in the front yard were such blasphemous-looking things that Norham's oldest boy, Zenas, cut them. Strangely puffed insects died around that time, and even the bees had left their hives, taken into the woods. By September, all vegetation was fast crumbling to a greyish powder, and Norham feared that the trees would die before the poison was out the soil. His wife now had spells of terrific screaming. He and the boys were in a constant state of nervous tension. They shunned people, and when school opened the boys did not go. But it was Amy, one of his rare visits, who first realized that the well water was no longer good. It had an evil taste that was not exactly fitted, nor exactly salty, and Amy advised his friend to dig another well on the high ground, till the soil was good again. Norham, however, ignored the warning. He had by the time become callous to his strange, pleasant thing. He and the boys continued to use this tainted supply, drinking it as listlessly and mechanically as they ate them. and did their thankless and monotonous chores through the aimless days. There was something of a stolid resignation about them, as if they walked half in another world between the lines of the neighbor's guards to a certain and familiar. Thaddeus went mad in September after visiting the well. He had gone with a pail and come back empty-handed, shrieking and waving his arms, and sometimes lapsing into an innate titter or a whisper about the moving colours down there. 2 in 1 family was pretty bad, but Norham was very brave about it. He let the boy run for about a week until he began stumbling and hurt. Then he shut him in an attic room across the hall. His mother's. The way they screamed at each other from behind the locked doors was very terrible, especially to little Merwin, who fancied they talked a terrible language that was not of this earth. Merwin was getting frightfully imaginative, and restlessness was worse after shutting away with the brother who had been his greatest playmate. Bless you, Ingrid. I said, I do hope you might get some rest soon. Almost at the same time, the morality among the livestock commenced. Poultry turned to great and died quickly, their meat being found dry and noticeable upon cutting. The hogs grew inordinately fat and then suddenly began to undergo loathsome changes that no one could explain. It was of course useless, and Norham was at his wit's end. No rural veterinary would approach its place, and the city veterinary from Arkham was openly baffled. The swine began growing grey and brittle, falling to pieces before they died. Their eyes and muzzles developed. It was very inexplicable. They had never been fed from the tainted vegetation. Then something struck the cows. Certain areas, or sometimes the whole body, would be uncannily shriveled or compressed. Atrocious collapses or disintegrations were common. In the last stages, and death was always the result, there would be a greying and turning brittle like that set the hog. There could be no question of poison, for all the cases occurred in a locked and undisturbed barn. No bites of prowling things that had brought the virus. What live beast of earth can pass through solid obstacles? It must only be a natural disease, yet what disease could wreak such results was beyond any mind's guessing. When the harvest came, there was not an animal surviving on the place. The stock and poultry were dead, and the dogs had run away. These dogs, 3, had all vanished one night and were never heard of again. 5 cats had left some time before, but their going was scarcely noted, since there now seemed to be no mice, and only Mrs. Gardiner had been pets of the graceful feet. I think that's easier said than done. That is incredibly true, Ingrid. That is incredibly true. Unfortunately so. Say, welcome in. How are you doing, Saya? I hope you're doing well. Welcome to Snug Sunday. We've just about reached just the halfway point of our current story, The Colour Out of Space, H.P Lovecraft. I'm glad you're doing well, my lovely. Hope you're having a wonderful day or evening. And thank you for stopping on by. On the 19th of October, Norm staggered into Amy's house with hideous news. The death had come to poor Thaddeus in his attic room, and it had come in a way which could not be told. Norm dug a grave in the railed family plot behind the farm, and put therein what he found. There could have been nothing from outside, a small barred window. But it was much as there had been in the barn. Amy and his wife consoled the stricken as they could, but shuddered as they did so. Stark terror seemed to be clinging round the garden, and all touched. The very presence of one in the house was a breath from Vreden's unmanaged. Amy accompanied Norm home with the greatest reluctance. Did what he might to calm the hysterical sobbing of little Merwin. Zenas needed no calming, and had come of late to do nothing but stare into space, to obey his father told him. And Amy thought that his fate was very merciful. Now, then when Merwin's screams were answered faintly from the attic, in response to an inquiring look, Norm said that his wife was getting very full. When night approached, Amy managed to get away. Not even friendship could make him stay in that spot. When the faint glow of the vegetation began, trees may or may not have swayed. It was really lucky for Amy that it was not more active. As things were, his mind was bent over, so slightly. But he had been able to connect and reflect upon all the portents around him. Amy must inevitably turn into a total maniac. In the twilight, he hastened home. Screams of a mad woman and a nervous child horribly. Again, we're just going to take a little bit of a break, because I can see another advert that's about to come up. He snoozed again. Everyone have a little bit of a stretch, grab some snacks. Emmy the Stargates, hello and welcome in. I'm Emily the Stargazer from New Zealand. Most just call me. Welcome in, my lovely. Thank you so much for the follow, and it's an absolute delight to have you here. We're just having a little bit of the break from the reading. It's because Adland is starting soon, and we don't want to lock anyone out of the story. But thank you for the follow. It's incredibly kind of you. So we've had a lot of new follows tonight, and I just want to thank you all for that. Oh, thank you for the bonk. I apologize the sound is turned off, but you very much definitely bonk. Welcome in to everyone new. I am the Morbid.
Your posture is regrettable. Concentrate
Sassy.
on
Oh goodness. Hydrate and a posture check. Actually, let's make sure we're not shrimping if you're computers. Have a nice stretch. And if you're make sure you're not sitting on your leg, so it's not a no worry. There we go. Hydrated and stretched. Oh, and another. But yes, I am the Morbid Moth, a British VTuber. Sucks at games and life. Usually I'm a lot more chaotic. Sorry if you... There's someone hacking us. So I'm so sorry if you can... There's nothing I can do about that. Like I said, my room is not made for... as I have two front-facing windows. And we all know what the general public is like, so there is, nothing you can do there. Just think of it as that you're in a library. There's always that one person. Don't worry, don't worry. I know you can't hear me, Ingrid, but it's okay. Hopefully you can see the subtitles in the top corner. I'm going to continue the story till everyone's back from Adland. Here we go. Adland should be over now. These captions are all over the place, aren't they? I'll try and find something a bit better. There's got to be something else. We've all had a hydrate, we've all checked our posture. We all good to go? Okay. Or as they say, are you sitting comfortably? 3 days later, Norman lurched into Amy's kitchen in the early morning, and in the absence of his host stammered out a desperate tale, while Mrs. Pierce listened in a clutching fight. With a head pat, so normally I do have little images, sounds that come up, because we're in a soft stream, you know. They're not coming up, but they are very much implied and very much appreciated. It's little Merwin this time. He was gone. He had gone out late at night with a lantern and pail for water, but never came back. He'd been going to pieces for days and hardly knew what he was about. He screamed at everything, and there had been a frantic shriek from the yard then. But before the father could get to the door, the boy was gone. There was no glow from the lantern he had taken, and the child himself no trace. At the time, Norman thought the lantern and pail were gone too, but when dawn came, the man had plodded back from his all-night search of the woods and fields. He had found some very curious things near the well. There was a crushed and apparently somewhat melted mass of iron, which had certainly been the lantern, while a bent bale and twisted iron hoops beside it, both half-fused, seemed to hint at the remnants of a pail. That was all. Norm was past imagining. Miss Pierce was blank, and Amy, when he had reached home and heard the tale, gave no guess. Spatule, hello, lovely. How are you doing? Spatule, it's incredibly sweet of you. Thank you so much. Fool of Hagen. How are you doing? Last time we spoke, you were rather poorly and you were just recovering. A bit more now. I hope you're doing. Thank you so much for the gifted subs. That's incredibly kind of you. You hope you're doing. So, for those who have come in and have not heard this tale before, essentially a meteorite has fallen on a farm, and after an amount of time, slowly withered away all the crops and the livestock. People who live and are slowly going mad, and yeah. Classic Lovecraft stuff, really. I'm no longer sick. Oh, fabulous! Oh, that's jolly good to hear. Oh, wonderful. I'm so glad to hear that. I hope you're feeling better in yourself overall, not just, you know. Being sick affects you more than just physically. Joke, hello, how are you doing? We're going well, thank you. I think the soft reading attempt is going okay, I think. Complaints so far, so I've got to be something okay. Yes, Joker. The colours, so there's random colours basically. Seeing, there are no colours that can be described nor applied. The colours are impossible, for it is the gift. I can't wait to have to try and pronounce those words later on, by the way. That's the one thing I was scared about reading Lovecraft. It's all the ancients' name and all of Ja, Shabnigrath. Yalathatep. You're a member of the Howard Philip Lovecraft? Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Oh, that's fantastic. Joker, you have lots of tricks up your sleeve, don't you? Wow, I'm genuinely wowed by that. That is so fabulous. Well, a lot of my other, sorry again. A lot of my other, also massive Lovecraft, so they would absolutely do that. Hello, the Lord of Absolute Darkness. What a fabulous name to have. Welcome. Wonderful to have you. Welcome to Snug Sunday. I speak softly and try and be a calm little. So. But as usual, chat is making me giggle. Distracting. They are naughty little sausages. Oh, it's on Twitter. That's why I've not been seeing things. I don't check my Twitter very often, so I do apologise if I've missed any messages. That's amazing, though. Oh, that's a fantastic certificate. I'm very envious. Very envious indeed. Now then. So, like I said, we've just reached almost at the halfway point.
Concentrate on sitting straight.
Thank you for the posture check. Make sure everyone, as we said, do a posture check. You have to do it yourself as well. That's okay. I'm hydrating a lot as we're going through this because, like I said, where I'm not used to speaking this softly for this long, this tone of voice, in here, and I've quite rightly predicted so. I'm turning into a frog, slowly but surely. In here, I'm going. Rrr. I have to get myself some kind of honey drink next time we do a reading stream. That way I don't sound quite as toad-like. And that's a hand puppet. Oh, wow, and they're all... Oh, that is incredible. I'd love to rack your brain about all of those. That's amazing, Joker. Thank you for sharing such things with me. There's a lot of people in my chat I think would love to drill your brain as well. I'm not quite there, Joker, but I wouldn't put it past me, to be honest, at this point. I'm not a big tea fan, but I like and understand why people... Well, it's the same thing, isn't it? I don't like, I don't know, beer, for example. A lot of people can't wait to go to the pub and grab a pint or whatever. But I can't stand beer. More of a cider guy. Cider and spirits, that's where I land. For a moth, I think you'd be a nightcorn. Ah, I'd happily be. Well, as happy as you can be being a night, but you know what I mean. Do you not have decaf coffee? Decaf is a blessing. It's like when I have my cups of tea at night, I grab myself a decaf cup of tea. That way I hopefully don't end up bouncing off the walls. Study in Emerald. Well, I am on the actual Lovecraft page at the moment. So we've been going around there, all of those, but to study in Emerald sounds interesting. Lovecraftian like those. A bit different, but on the theme, isn't it? Darkman33, thank you ever so much for the follow. Welcome. It's a pleasure to have you. You're taking care. Welcome into Snug Sun. The only time you'll hear me be calm. 2 minutes. Coffee doesn't work on me, but it is relaxing. Oh, you're the same as me. Caffeine can make you sleepy. It's weird. Some people with the caffeine make them bounce off the walls, and others it helps them to kind of For me, it's the latter. Plus, I can't make my own tea. Oh, I'm sure you. It's just leaf water. We'll be fine. Shroom, hello, my lovely. How are you doing? I legit forgot this book existed. Poor Lovecraft didn't know what microwave and ultraviolet. Oh my gosh. Didn't even consider that, but you're correct, aren't you? Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, you've just completely changed my perspective on that. That is absolutely brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant. From vampire to moth, anytime I make a drink it ends up terrible. Oh, that's okay. The fact that you're trying is more than others would do. It makes me tired, but faster it gives me anxiety. Love being neurospicy. That is the thing, isn't it? If you are neurospicy, it's hard to explain caffeine and such works on you. Because other people are just like, well, just do this instead. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't. But thank you for telling me how I should be living my life. And now, I picture you quoting Mary Poppins in League of Extraordinary. Rocked baby gots to sleep, drank tea with eggs. I've been protecting everything. And I know what bees know, and I've been every garden with you. Truly. I like your accent is what the world think English people sound like. Being from Northern England, they probably think, oh. That is the benefit of having a Southern accent. You kind of sound like the traditional quote-unquote British. But to be honest, the majority of British people do not speak like this at all. I'm in the minority, I'd say. I've said before, the only reason I really speak like this is because I did a lot of theatre, so it was absolutely pronunciation, politeness, and what. But no, especially when I get more relaxed and so you can hear the pronunciation slip and I turn kind of casual, so to speak. Yeah, a lot of English accents are more just kind of R's, nars. Which is absolutely nothing wrong with, may I add. I think every dialect and accent is beautiful in its own way. You don't find it fascinating? Just humans in general. Creatures of accent and delight in languages. I don't see how it can't fascinate you. I really can't. The fact that we all communicate, we all use the same words to a certain extent, yet we have so many different ways of saying them. Depending on what silly little bit of rock we're on. Depends whether we understand it or not. Isn't that interesting? Does it not interest you? The world is fascinating. Mary Poppins killed Harry. I mean, to be fair. I'm from Canada, but I sound like not my age. Well, I am not as old as people think. I often get a lot of people thinking much older than I actually am. So I feel that. I feel that. I don't mind saying how old I am, but I'm 24. Well, in a human years, that is. In moth terms, it's completely different. A lot of people seem to think I'm a lot older than I am, but no, I am a... I'm a... I'm just an old soul. I'm from Yorkshire. I have family in Yorkshire, so 100%. You also have the best tea. And that's not just because of your tea bags, it's because of your water. The water tastes so different up there. It's magical, it really is. Fun fact, Lovecraft considered Colour Out of Space to be his best story, but the worst story was called... Really? I mean, I can kind of understand. Colour Out of Space is very good, but... Surprised it was its worst. Definitely other pieces, I would say. Close to my age, you return all my dear, don't you? I do regenerate. It's a moth thing. Moths never truly... Just flutter off, then come back. It's nice to hear that we're close in age. It is. Question, favourite authors? Oh, that's a good one. I'll have to get back to you on that. I have a lot. But I haven't read properly in a while. Let's see. But I'm definitely it's cheesy as it is, I'm definitely an Edgar Allan Poe fan. I'm definitely an egg fan. I love these captions. These captions are chaotic. I love it. Can't stand water anywhere outside of Yorkshire. My dad lives in the Midlands, so I don't like the water. Yeah, once you've had the water from Yorkshire, every other water is subpar. You can never go back. Like literally. Even taking a shower or a bath is a different experience because we're down south. We have such chalky water. The lime scale is insane as well. Ironic, I know. But it tastes completely different. Like, I hate drinking tap water at home. But if I go and visit family in Yorkshire, tea, everything just tastes better. I don't know what it is. I really don't. I don't drink plain water by choice. Ew. I'm one of those weird people who absolutely hate drinking water. Oops, sorry. Give you an earthquake there. I drank water last week. Yeah, me basically. Excuse me. That's what happens when you go up at 6 AM. I only don't drink water at home because it's traumatizing experience mixed. It's vile. Oh no, thank you. Air fried off when I bleached it in the Midlands, but it's Yorkshire and I've gone platinum. It's like, really? Gosh. It's me. I'm glad to hear the platinum went well. At restaurants it's free, so I ordered it. That's true. That's true. But I never trust restaurant ice, lettuce, or water. Definitely not a board at least. Dyeing it silver today. I remember you saying that it's more like Daenerys. I think that's a beautiful one. Silver hair, that's lovely though, isn't it? Well, I'll tell you what. Been live for just almost 2 hours now, so why don't we take a little break, go and refill our drinks, have a stretch, then we'll come back and we'll continue our little story. Distraction there. Thank you for the bad one. I will not thank you. It's a bit rude, really. But as I said, I do have my redemptions off at the moment, but I will... But normally, a water bottle comes out and squirts my face. So... 2 hour break. No, not a 2 hour break. Not a 2 hour. Not a 2-hour. Okay, have your points back. Oh, there you go. Wholesome time before we go on a quick break. When Lovecraft died, his stories would fall into oblivion, but a circle of friends decided to buy the rights for every story published by him, published them under the desk at Arkham House, and made them copyright. That is so wholesome, isn't it? Finding those works and being like, yes, the world needs to hear
Your posture
these.
is regrettable. Concentrate on sitting
Thank you
straight.
for the hydrate and the posture check. Everyone make sure you do so. Everyone do that. We're going to have a very quick break. Go and grab a drink. Go and stretch your legs. Get yourself comfortable. Have a wee. Do whatever you need to do. And we'll be right back in but a moment. Now, again, transition jump scare. It's loud. You have been warned. In 3, 2, 1. Get spooked. I'll be back in a moment.
then the sun came out again and sent us happily on our way. I recall a summer's day when you and I had strolled away, and suddenly a storm drew nigh. Seeking shelter from the rain, we hurried down a little lane and found a lovely spot nearby. 'Twas just a garden in the rain, close to a little leafy lane. A touch of color meets skies of gray. 'Twas just a garden in the rain, but then the sun came out again and sent us happily on our way.
Surprise! It's me. I am back. How are you all doing? See an ad is in progress. Gosh darn it. What have you been talking about? Google the strawberry octopus. Oh my gosh, yes. If you haven't, please Google the strawberry octopus. It is the most adorable thing. It is so cute. It is so, so cute. Teen Crumpets. ASMR keyboard. Well, I didn't realize people liked the keyboard sounds. Because like I said, a lot of you end up moaning at me because you can hear my keyboard. What's that website called? Not Kiva. Is it Typing Cat? Oh no. It's like Bongo Cat, but a cat keyboard. It's very cute. Darkman, thank you for the Prime sub. That's incredibly kind of you. Thank you for using that on me. Hopefully it'll not go to waste. Thank you so much. I actually have a typewriter. I do have a typewriter. It works, it's functional, I have written on it before. And do write on it. It's a light blue one, it's very pretty. It is a vintage one. It is not a new one, it is an old one, and I love it dearly. Yes, I do have a typewriter. I also have record players and yeah, a lot of other old curios. Well, not curios. Well, yeah, kind of old curios, I suppose. For me, they're just normal decorations, but to others, they are curio. What's it called? Record player, top of your head now, favourite records. I love Virilin. Virilin is an absolute go-to. Nat King Cole, absolutely brilliant. Love. I do have a Suede. I do have a Suede. I have a couple of classics, obviously like Barbie and all as well. I do have some My Chemical Romance as well. But I wouldn't really say that. Especially there was Virilin, Nat King Cole. Ooh, who else? The Ink Spots. The Ink Spots are good. I have quite a few. I used to have more. Actually, I had to get rid of quite a lot. The fear of snakes. I love snakes. Monkey Type. That's the website. That's the one I use. I forgot what it was called then. Hey, see, absolutely love snakes. I don't think there is literally no animal I dislike beside, well, actually there is. That's a lie, I lied. Obviously I don't like spiders. I don't mind them as long as they keep their distance, we're fine. What I don't like, and this is quite a controversial take, I don't like monkeys. I don't. There's something about they're too dirty and they're too angry. You know what I mean? When I beat the snake in Resident Evil, oh yeah. It's like I can't play Skyrim without the, well, I've not ever really played Skyrim because of the spider cave at the beginning. It was too realistic. And every time I play Diablo and you go in the cave with the spiders that dangle down, no bueno. Sorry, I know it's a loud keyboard. Sorry. See, I don't. Any bug that comes into my room, I genuinely don't care. As long as it stays on it, you know, by its own business. I don't care. It can waddle around. I really don't care. As long as it doesn't have more than 7 legs and less than 9. We're all good. Oh, is it Iron Lung? Is that the one you're thinking of? And then obviously you've got things like Subnautica as well. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't really say I have. I'd say the only fear I do have is arachnophobia. Well, and obviously agoraphobia, but that's not an interesting one to share. You can give me nightmares forever. I have them anyway, you might as well. Mainly because, see, that's understandable. If you can't swim, naturally you're going to be scared of water. I mean, I don't like boats. I'll get on a boat, you know, I'll do boat stuff, but I don't particularly like it. Same as most people, it's not so much the fear of the actual object or item or happening. It's the actual what if, isn't it? It's the same as when you're leaning over the cliff edge, staring down at the bottom. You're not necessarily scared of the height per se, you're more scared of what if the rope suddenly gives way. Your intrusive thoughts, basically. Oh. Well, it's like, I don't know, maybe it's the kind of person I am, I'm not too sure, but I like to face my fears, so to speak. I try not to kill spiders, I try and take them outside when I can, etc. Even if I do scream the entire process. But I watched people like The Dark Den on YouTube. You know, races, tarantulas and such. Watch them, and because I appreciate the creatures that they are. I find them beautiful and fascinating, but ugh. Here in Chile, there's an aggressive brown spider, tiny and aggressive. How do you get rid of it? By having a large one. Yes, no, we very much have the same kind of... Frogget! Oh my goodness. Hello, Frogget Raid. Hello, welcome. What an absolutely fantastic time. Welcome in. We're just talking about what makes us spooked. So much. Let me give you a little shout out. What were you doing? What were you up to? Thank you so much for the raid. That's incredibly kind of you. Welcome in, my lovely. Here we go. Everyone follow the frog, because that's just adorable. Speaking of fears, do you think anyone's scared of frogs? There's no way you can be scared of frogs. How can you not like frogs? I was in the nightmare and my dad went to the zoo, and when we got to the reptile area, this kid pushed me, and, you know, I was like, oh really? That's a horrible dream. By the sounds of it though, it just looked like you watched Harry Potter. And see, I'm fine with needles. I couldn't care less. When I go to see the doctors and the nurses and all that, I just let them jab me. They can do what they want. I don't care. I think it's because I have really crap veins, so a lot of the times, and I'm not even joking, it takes about 3 or 4 attempts per arm in order for them to get my blood. So I'm just used to it. I'm very much used to it. It's to a point, isn't it, where it just becomes, you know, almost just like, oh, here we go again. Did some Minecraft Legends and then some Fall Guys. Very nice, very wholesome. I like that. I hope it went well. I have read Hellboy, and I still don't think you can be scared of frogs. Heights and dolls. See, dolls is an interesting one. So I collect these dolls called Living Dead dolls. I don't know if you've heard of them or not. I'll try and get like a picture up of them. They used to be a lot more popular than they are now. Well, actually, they've never really been too popular. What's a good one to show? Need like a semi... I don't need good pictures on Google, but Living Dead dolls. Love them, absolutely love them. I've got over 50 of them. And I'd love to get more, but they're so hard to find. Dolls, yeah, no, I can understand the doll part. They can certainly be unsettling, can't they? A friend broke a needle in her arm. Oof. Heights. I mean, heights, I get it. I think it's just a logical thing. I think if anyone says, like, oh, I'm scared of heights or tight spaces, no one's going to go like, oh, you're stupid. I'm going to go, yeah, that's fair. In my opinion, no phobia is an irrational phobia because you clearly have a reason or meaning behind your fear. There's, you know, it's not irrational. It's a fear. I'm not afraid of basculin. I have to skip the jewel part because really? That bad, huh? Well, yeah, it's like, I can watch the Aragog scene in Harry Potter, but I don't particularly enjoy it. And if I hear like any music like it, I'm like... Although, to be fair, when I did go to Warner Brothers Studios, because in England, a little tour you can do around the Harry Potter studios, when I did go around, there is a bit where you go into the Forbidden Forest, and there is indeed an Aragog, and I shat myself. I, the whole time, was just gripping on the person I was with, and I just didn't want to know it. I was like, I can walk past it, but I don't want to be involved with it, if that makes sense. So that's literally what I did. I walked past it, went, yep, that's horrible, and ran away. But my mum, for example, you can't even say the word spider around her without her panicking. Luckily, touchwood, I'm not that bad, but yeah, I know how it is. Furbies! My friend had a Furby that would go off at 3 AM like the horror stories. That thing was horrible. Taking my book collection. Oh wow, get you in your little library. Yeah. That's what I mean. Reptile areas. Like, I'm fine with it, but I know people who aren't. And it's like, don't force them in there. If they don't want to go in, don't do it. Like, stop being a knob. I almost drowned a long time ago. I don't feel the deep. In fact, I feel it's comfortable. It's weird, isn't it? How you either get kind of the phobias or it can help you with it. I'm sorry to hear you almost drowned, but I'm scared of heights with the universe shaking real bad. Exactly. And again, that's completely reasonable. You can't even say the word snake around him without panicking. But on stream, it's okay. It's the same. We're very lucky in England. We don't really have snakes. The only one we have is the adder. And unless you're like in the countryside and a specific kind of temperature, you won't see them. Unless you go looking for them, you're very unlikely to see them. We do have a lot of slow worms though. They're very snake-like, but they're adorable. Cat always brings quite a few slow worms and it's like, oh no! Mother of Toads or Mother of Frogs by Clark Ashton Smith. Okay. I'll have to give it a check out. Thank you for that. Thank you for looking in your collection. Girthy Papa. What a name. Oh my gosh. And coming in here with the good vibes. Welcome in. Wonderful to have you. Thank you for the first time. We've got a bit distracting from our reading. Me and Chat are just having a little bit of a connection at the moment. Just grr. It's fine. You're gonna make me roll my R's every time. Grr. Right. I do believe we are all stretched, we are all hydrated, we are all good to go. My captions are trying to caption. We have discussed our fears and phobias, and shall we get back to the story, shall we? Yeah? As we've got a few new people in, welcome in. We are reading The Colour Out of Space by H.P Lovecraft. And all you've missed so far is that the little meteorite fell into a farmer's place. It's ruined all the crops, basically, slowly killing the livestock. Everyone's avoiding the place, and people who are on the farm are slowly going mad. So, you know, as I said before, traditional Lovecraft stuff. Look, I have the attention span of a moth. I knew this stream would be difficult. Trying to keep quiet, so to speak. And trying to keep my attention on a story when all of you are popping off next to me. I knew it. I know Dracula and King. Ooh, I will, thank you. Just start sending me some of these, Joker. Right. I do, yeah. I have the attention span of a moth. If I see anything kind of shiny or bright lights, that's it. I'm gone. It's either that or a magpie. When a vampire smells blood, that's good. Because you kind of have the hyperfixation there as well, don't you? Right. So there's a child who is nervously crying, basically. 3 days later, Norman lurched into Amy's kitchen in the early morning, and in the absence of his host stammered out a desperate tale once more. When Mrs. Pierce listened in a clutching fright, it was little Merwin this time. He was gone. He had gone out late that night with a lantern and pail and water, but had never come back. He'd been going to pieces for days and hardly knew what he was on about. He screamed at everything. There had been a frantic shriek from the yard then, but before the father could get to the door, the boy was gone. There was no glow from the lantern he had taken, and of the child himself, no trace. At the time, Norman thought the lantern and pail were gone too, but when dawn came, the man had plodded back from his all-night search of the woods and fields. It found some very curious things near the well. There was a crushed and apparently somewhat melted mass of iron, which had certainly been the lantern, while a bent bale, twisted iron hoops beside it, both half infused, seemed to hint at a remnants of the pail. And that was all. Norman passed imagining Mrs. Pierce was blank, and Amy, when he had reached home and heard the tale, could give no guess. Merwin was gone, and there was no use in telling the people around. We were all just shunned the gardeners now. No use either in telling the city people at Arkham, who laughed at everything. Dad was gone. Merwin was gone. Something was creeping and creeping, waiting to be seen, felt, and heard. Norm would go soon, and he wanted Amy to look after his wife and Zenas if they survived him. It must all be a judgment of some sort, but he could not fancy what for, since he had always walked uprightly the Lord's way, so far as he knew. Pause. Like a moth to a flame, intensity and distraction brings her an hour of doom. Bring her a romantic joy, she's with the morbid curiosity of the moth, escaping the whispering lips of the ghosts. Oh. Oh, you've got me there. Don't get me with a good little narrative like that. Don't you get to a moth. Don't make me blush. How dare you? I'm making you blush. You don't make me blush. That's not how this works. Thank you. That I thoroughly enjoyed that. Over 2 weeks, Ami saw nothing of Naum, and then, worried about what might have happened, he overcame his fears and paid the garden's place a visit. There was no smoke from the great chimney, and for a moment the visitor was apprehensive of the worst. The aspect of the whole farm was shocking, greyish withered grass and leaves, vines falling in brittle wreckage from archaic walls and gables, and the great bare trees clawing up into the grey November sky with a studied malevolence which Amy could not feel, but had come from such a subtle change, tilt the branches. But Norman was alive, after all. He was weak and lying on a couch in the low-ceiled kitchen, but perfectly conscious and able to give simple orders to Zenas. The room was deadly cold, and as Ami visibly shivered, the host shouted huskily to Zenas for more wood. Wood, indeed, was sorely needed. since the cavernous fireplace was unlit and empty, with a cloud of soot blowing about in the chill wind that came down from the chimney. Presently Norm asked him if the extra wood had made him any more comfortable, and then Abby saw what had happened. The stoutest cord had broken at last, and the hapless farmer's mind was proof against more sorrow. Questioning tactfully, Amy could get no clear data at all about the missing Zaynats. In the well. He lives in the well, was all that the clouded father would say. Then there flashed across the visitor's mind a sudden thought of the mad wife, and he changed of his line of Nabby, why, here she is, was the surprised response of poor Norman, and Army soon saw that he must search for himself. Leaving the harmless babbler on the couch, he took the keys from the nail beside him, climbed the creaking stairs to the attic. It was very close and noisome up there, and no sound could be heard from any direction. The 4 doors in sight, only one was locked, and on this he tried various keys on the ring he had taken. The 3rd key proved the right one, and after some fumbling, Amy threw open the low door. It was quite dark inside. The window was small and half obscured by the crude wooden bars, and Amy could see nothing at all on the white planked floor. The stench was beyond enduring, and before proceeding further he had to retreat to another room and return of his lungs filled with breathable air. When he did enter, he saw something dark in the corner, and upon seeing it more clearly he screamed outright. While he screamed, he thought a momentary cloud eclipse in the window, and a second later he felt himself brushed, as if by some hateful current of vapour. Strange colours danced before his eyes. Had not a present horror numbed him, he would have thought the globule in the meteor that the George hammer had shattered, and of the morbid vegetation that had sprouted in the spring. As it was, he thought only of the blasphemous monstrosity which confronted him, which all too clearly had shared the nameless fate of the young Thaddeus and the livestock. But the terrible thing about this horror was that it was very slowly, perceptibly moved, as it continued to crumble. Fix-it, Freb, how are you doing? You enjoying the cozy vibes and that you are doing well today? I told you, my dear, dark butterfly, tattooed with a smiling skull that bears the joy of the afterlife. I'm the narrator of games. It's in my nature to tell the tale while I'm in the shadows, where the moth looks for the hopeful light. For what is night if there's no light? What is despair with the light of hope? Guide us through the vast of night. My dear, dark butterfly, bird of secrets and teller of tales. Oh my. How dare you? How dare you? How dare you, Joker? Ooh. You've done me a confuzzle. Look at you. You've made my little brain go weird. Shall we dance? Hold me. Thrill me. Kill me. English isn't your first language? You shut your face. Come in here with such beautiful words. And English isn't... You're putting me to shame here, Joker. You are putting me to shame. Spanish! Oh, how wonderful. Allow me to demonstrate my poor noble skills. Want a copy? Want a cup of coffee, my dear moth? Depends how you're making it. Is it going to be bitter and sharp and as brutal as the world around us, or is it going to be as sweet and as caring as you are, Ingrid? Look, you've distracted us from the story again. Honestly, the pair of you are going to get me into trouble. Good. Enjoy the warmth rushing in your face. It's healthy to have a good blood flow. Army would give me no added particulars to this scene, but the shape in the corner does not reappear in his tale as a moving object. There are things which cannot be mentioned. What is done in common humanity is sometimes cruelly judged by the law. I gathered that no moving thing was left in the attic room, and that to leave anything capable of motion there would have been a deed so monstrous as to damn any accountable being to eternal torment. Speaking of eternal torment, I must go. I bid you put a lively night in this Plutonian shore, tell the tale of the couple, bring the horror, and make the Providence proud, for he is the Providence, our lover. That I will, my good Sir Joker. Have a wonderful evening yourself. For me it is but the morning. The light breaks, but the horror never seems to shrink away. For the brighter the light, the bigger the shadow. But thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your fabulous words, your knowledge. And do take care. I hope to see you very soon. And I'll be sure to check Twitter for once in my life. Continue with your story. I shall relax and spectate while you tell your tale. Thank you, Ingrid. Oh, shush. You need not speak noble. Speak yourself. Speak the truth. But there is no such nobility than just being one's true self. As a noble vampire, I must. My apologies. Oh. They have little moffy fangs, but they're nowhere near as impressive. Nowhere near as impressive as vampire fangs. But they're little, my little mothy chompers. All the better for eating your clothes with. And do not take that out of context. Find your banner. Oh, fabulous! Welcome in. I do hope you enjoy it. Visitors are always welcome. Just don't get lost and do enter the dust. Where were we? Ah yes, eternal torment. Anyone but a stolid farmer would have fainted or gone mad, but Ami walked conscious through that low door and locked the accursed secret behind him. Buenas noches. I should explore your house, please. Buenas noches. Muchas gracias. There would be Norman to deal with now. We gotta continue, we gotta do this. There would be Norman to deal with now. He must be fed and tended and removed to some place where he could be cared for. Commencing his descent up the dark stairs, Ami heard a thud below him. He even thought a scream had been suddenly choked off, recalled nervously the clammy vapour which had brushed by him in that frightful room above. What presence had this cry and entry started up? Halted by some vague fear, he heard still further sounds below. Indubitably, there was a sort of heavy dragging, most detestably a sticky noise, as some sort of fiendish and unclean species of suction. With an associative sense goaded to feverish heights, he thought unaccountably of the scene upstairs. Good God, what eldritch dream world was this into he had blundered? He dared move neither backwards nor forward, but stood there trembling at the back curve of the box in the staircase. Every trifle of the scene burned itself into his brain. The sounds, the sense of dread, expectancy, darkness, the steepness of the narrow steps, and merciful heaven, the faint but unmistakable luminosity of all the woodwork in sight, steps, sides, exposed laths, and beams alike. Then there burst forth a frantic whinny from Amy's horse outside, followed at once by a clatter which told of a frenzy runaway. In another moment, horse and buggy had gone beyond earshot, leaving the frightened man on the dark stairs to guess what had sent them. But that's not all. There had been another sound out there, a sort of liquid splash. Water. It must have been the well. He had left Hero untied near it, and a buggy wheel must have brushed the coping and knocked into the stone, and still the pale phosphorescence glowed in that destinably ancient woodwork. God, how old the house was! Most of it built before 1670, and the gable roof not later than 1730. A feeble scratching on the floor downstairs now sounded distinctly, and Army's grip tightened on a heavy stick he had picked up in the attic for some purpose. Slowly nerving himself, he finished his descent and walked boldly toward the kitchen. But he did not complete the walk, because what he sought was no longer there. It had come to meet him. It was alive, after a fashion. Whether it is cool, or whether it had been dragged by an external force, Army could not say, but the death had been at it. Everything had happened in the last half hour, but collapse, raying, disintegration were already far advanced. There was a horrible brittleness, dry fragments were scaling. Army could not touch it, but looked horrifiedly at the distorted parody of what had been a face. Was it Norman? What was it? Whispered. And the cleft, bulging lips were just able to crackle out final answer. Nothing. Nothing. The color. It burns. Cold. Wet. But it burns. It lived in the well. I seen it. A kind of smoke. Just like the flowers last spring. The well shone at night. Thad and Murney and Zanus. Everything alive. Sucking the life out of everything. Stone. Must come in that stone. Poisoned the whole place. Don't know what it wants. That round thing them men from the college dug out in the stone. Smashed it. It was the same color. Just the same, like the flowers and plants. Must have been more of them. Seeds. Seeds, they growed. I seen it first time this week. Must have got a strong on Zanus. He was a big boy, full of life. Beats down on your mind and gets ye. Burns ye up. Well, water. You were right about that. Evil water. Zanus never come back from the well. Can't get away. Draws ye. You know something's coming, but tain't no use. I seen it time and again since Zaius was took. Where's Nabby? Army? My head's no good. Don't know how long since I fed her. It'll get her if we ain't careful. Just a colour. Her face is getting to have the colour sometimes towards night. And it burns and sucks. comes from someplace where aren't they here? One of them professors said to. Was right. I can't harm me. Do something more. Suck the life. But that was all. That which spoke could speak no more, because it completely caved in. Army laid a red checked tablecloth over what was left and reeled out the back door and climbed the slope to the 10-acre pasture and stumbled home by the north road into the woods. He had not passed that well from which his horse had run away. He had looked at it through the window and had seen that no stone was missing from the rim. Then the lurching buggy had not dislodged anything after all. The splash had been something else, something which went into the well after it had done. Poor Norman. When Army reached his house, the horse and buggy had arrived before him, thrown his wife into fits of anxiety. Reassuring her without explanations, he set out at once for Arkham and notified the authorities that the Gardner family was no more. Indulged in no details, but merely told of the deaths of Norman, that of Thaddeus being one, and mentioned that the cause seemed to be the strange ailment which had killed the livestock. He also stated that Mervyn and Zenas had disappeared. There were considerable questioning at the police station, and in the end, Army was compelled to take 3 officers to the Gardner farm, together with the coroner, medical examiner, and the veterinary, who had treated the diseased animals. He went much against his will, for the afternoon was advancing, and he feared the fall of night over that accursed place, but it was some comfort to have so many people with him. The 6 men drove out in a Democrat wagon, following Army's buggy, and arrived at the pest-ridden farmhouse about 4 o'clock. Used as the officers were too gruesome to experience this, not one remained unmoved at what was found in the attic and under the red-checked tablecloth on the floor below. The whole aspect of the farm, with its grey desolation, was terrible enough, but those 2 crumbling objects were beyond all bounds. No one could long look at them, and even the medical examiner himself admitted that there was very little to examine. Specimens could be analysed, and of course so he busied himself. And here it develops that very puzzling aftermath occurred. The samples gave the laboratory, where the 2 phials of dust were finally taken. Under the spectroscope, both gave off an unknown spectrum, in which many of the baffling bands were precisely like those which strange meteor had yielded. The property of emitting this in spectrum vanished in a month, the dust thereafter consisting mainly of alkaline phosphates and carbon. Army would not have told the men about the well if he'd thought it meant to do anything than get there. It was getting towards sunset, and he was anxious to be away. But he could not help glancing nervously at the stony curb by the great sweep. And when a detective questioned him, he had admitted that Norman had feared something down there, so much so that he never even thought of searching it for Mervyn or Zenny. After that, nothing would do but put it empty and explore the well immediately. So Army had to wait trembling while pail after pail of rank water pulled up and splashed on the soaking ground outside. Men sniffed in disgust at the fluid, and towards the last held their noses against the feature they were uncovering. It was not so long a job as they had feared it would be, since the water was phenomenally low. There was no need to speak too exactly of what they found. Mervyn and Zenas were both there. Part, through the vestiges, were mainly skeletal. There was also a small deer and a large dog about the same state, and a number of bones of smaller animals. Ooze and slime at the bottom seemed inexplicably porous and bubbling, and a man who descended on handholds with a long pole found that he could sink the wooden shaft into any depth in the mud of the floor without meeting any solid obstruction. Twilight had now fallen, and lanterns were brought from the house. Then, when it was seen that nothing further could be gained from the well, Everyone went indoors and conferred in the ancient sitting room, the intermittent light of a spectral half-moon played wanly on the grey desolation outside. The men were frankly nonplussed by the entire case, and could find no convincing common element to link the strange vegetable conditions, the unknown disease of the livestock, and human, and the accountable deaths of Merwin and Zanus in the tainted. They had heard the common country talk, it is true, but could not believe that anything contrary to natural law had occurred. No doubt the meteor had poisoned the soil, but the illness of the persons and the animals who had eaten nothing, grown in the soil, was another matter. Was it the well water? Very possibly. It might be a good idea to analyze it, but what peculiar madnesses could have made both boys jump into the well? Their deeds were so similar in the fragments shewed that they both suffered from the grey, brittle death. It was everything so grey, brittle. It was the coroner seated near a window overlooking the yard who first noticed the glow about the well. The night had fully set in, and the abhorrent ground seemed faintly luminous in more than fitful moonbeams. But this new glow was something definite and distinct. It appeared to shoot up from the black pit like a softened ray from a searchlight, giving dull reflections in the little ground pools where the water had been emptied. It had a very queer colour, and as all men clustered round the window, Army gave a violent start. But the strange beam of ghastly miasma was sent to him from no unfamiliar hue. Seen that colour before, and feared to think what it might mean. He had seen it in the nasty, brittle globule that aerolite 2 summers ago, had seen it in the crazy vegetation of springtime, and thought he'd seen it for an instant that very morning against the small barred window of that terrible attic room. Nameless things happen. It then flashed there a second, and a clammy and hateful current of the vapour had brushed past him, and then poor Nahum been taken by something of the colour. He had said so, at the least, said it was the globule and the plants. After that had come the runway, in the yard the splash in the well, and now, reaching forth into the night, a pale, insidious beam of the same. It does not credit the alertness of Army's mind that he puzzled even at the tense movement of a point which was essentially scientific. He could not but wonder at the gleaming of the same impression from which a vapour glimpsed in the daytime, against a window opening on the morning sky landscape. It wasn't right. It was against nature. And he thought those terrible last words of his stricken friend. It'd come from the same place where things ain't as they are here. One of those professors said so. All 3 horses outside, tied to a pair of shriveled saplings by the road, were now neighing and pawing frantically. The wagon driver started for the door to do something, but Army laid a shaky hand on his shoulder. "Don't go out there," he whispered. "There's more to what we know. Norm said something lived in the well and it sucks your life out. He said there must be something grown from a round ball like the one we saw in the meteor shone. Sucks and burns is what he said. There jest a cloud of colour like that light every out now thou, that ye can hardly see and ye can hardly tell what it is. Norm thought it feeds on everything living as gifts and stronger time. He said that he'd just seen it last week. Must be something away far off in the sky from Menla College last year, says the meteor stone was. The way it's made and the way it works ain't like no way of the God's world. It's some part of the beyond." The men paused indecisively as the light from the well grew stronger. and the hitched horses pawed and whinnied in increasing frenzy. It was truly an awful moment. With terror that in an instant accursed the house itself, 4 monstrous sets of fragments, 2 from the house and 2 from the well in the hall, and the shaft of the unknown, an unholy iridescence from the slimy depths in front. Army had restrained the driver on an impulse, forgetting how uninjured he himself was after the clammy brushing of that coloured vapour in the room. But perhaps it was just as well he has acted as he did. No one will ever know what was aboard that night. And although the blasphemy from beyond had not so far hurt any human, there is no telling what it might have done for that last moment. And with their seemingly increased strength, the special signs of purpose, it was soon to be a sleigh underneath the half-clouded sky. It is an average day in Tijuana, I guess. I wouldn't know, but if you say so. If you say so. Like, see, you can tell I'm waking up, I'm getting excited. Shush, Mothy, shush. All at once, the detectives at the window gave a short, sharp gasp. The others looked at him and then quickly followed his own gaze upwards to the point at which his idle staring had been suddenly arrested. There was no need for words. What had been disputed on the country gossip was disputable no longer, and that is because of the thing which every man of that party agreed to, whispering later on that the strange days never talked about Arkham. Mobs the Traveller, hello. Welcome in. It is an absolute delight to have you. Welcome to Snug Sundays, where I'm quiet and relaxed, unlike the rest of the week. I am the Traveller of Twitch, and I have chosen to lurk here and rest while I have a wonderful day. I do hope you're doing well. I hope you have a lovely rest. Thank you for your compliments, and do take care of yourself. Thank you for stopping by. It's Sunday at 4:06 a.m. My goodness, no. For me, it's 11:06 a.m. But any time can be a cozy time, can it not? All at once, we've done that bit. Alright, see, I've lost my place now, bear with me. There we go. Even the dry tips of the lingering hedge mustard grey and blighted. There was absolutely none then. And the fringe on the roof of the standing Democrat wagon were unstirred. Yet amid that tense, godless calm, the high bare boughs of all the trees in the they were twitching morbidly and spasmodically, clawing in conclusive epileptic madness at the clouds, scratching impotently the noxious air, as if jerked by some alien and bodiless line of inkage, subterranean horrors, writhing and struggling below the black roots. Not a man breathed for several seconds. Then a cloud of darker depth passed over the moon, and the silhouette of clutching branches faded out momentarily. At this there was a general cry, and muffled awe, but a husky and almost identical every throat. For the terror had not faded with the silhouette, and in a fearsome instant of deeper darkness, the watchers saw wriggling at the treetop height 1,000 tiny points of faint and unhallowed, tipping each bow like the fire of St. Elmo, the flames that came down on the apostles. It was a monstrous constellation of unnatural light, like a gutted swarm of corpse-fed fireflies dancing hellish sarabands over an accused. Its colour was the same as that named intrusion which the army had begun to recognize. All while the shaft of phosphorescence from the well was getting brighter and brighter, bringing to the minds one huddled men a sense of doom and of malady which far outtraced any image their conscious minds could form. It was no longer shining out, it was pouring out. And as the shapeless stream of unplaceable colour left the wall, it seemed to flow directly into the sky. Are you giving auditions for being the next firekeeper in Dark Souls? Mayhendra, thank you for popping in. Thank you for the first time chat. And I would adore nothing more to be able to voice something, whether it be with this soft, cozy Sunday reading voice or with my normal chaotic gremlin voice. I wish I would be so lucky. The veterinary shivered and walked to the front door to drop the heavy extra bar across it. Harmony shook no less and had to tug it for a point of lack of controllable voice when he wished to draw notice to the growing luminosity of the trees. The neighing and stamping of the horse had become utterly frightful, but not a soul of that group in the old house would have ventured forth for any earthly reward. Within moments the shining of the trees increased, while their restless branches seemed to strain more vertically. The wood of the well soup was shining now, and presently a policeman dumbly pointed to some wooden sheds and beehives near the stone wall of the west. They were commencing to shine too. Through the tethered vehicles the visitors seemed so far unaffected. There was then a wild commotion and a clopping in the road, and as Amy quenched the lamp for better seeing, they realized was a span of frantic greys to break their sapling and run off with the Democrat. I don't know what's the story, but the words is making me want to stay, so I'll let the story slide. To put it long story short, meteor fell. It began rotting the land around it. The people then rotted land. And now someone's here investigating it all. Something bad's happening. That's all you need to know, really. But thank you for the compliment. That's very, very sweet of you. I do hope you're enjoying your stay. Look at all those snug emotes. Oh. Oh. The shock served to loosen several tongues, and embarrassed whispers were exchanged. It spreads on everything organic that's been around me, muttered the medical examiner. No one replied, but the man who had been in the well gave a hint that his long pole must have stirred up something intangible. It was awful, he added. There was no bottom at all, just ooze and bubbles, and the feeling of something lurking under there. Army's horse still pawned and screamed deafeningly in the road outside. Nearly drowned its owner's faint quaver as he mumbled at his form's reflections. It came from the stone. It growled down there. It got everything living. It fed itself on a mind and a body. Thad and Murney, Zanus and Nabby. Name was last. They all drunk the water. Got strong on them. They come from beyond, where things ain't like they be here. Now, it's going home. We're going to stop here for a second, because I can see an advert is due, and as per usual, we'll wait for the advert to commence. Oh, I might be able to snooze this one, actually. Give me a second. Let's have a look. Where's a welcome back? We are still indeed. We're getting there, we're getting there. Although, don't laugh. I'm so sleepy. Listening to this backdrop has made me ever so sleepy. Mother, your voice is so enchanting. I feel like if you taught me math, I'd pay attention more. Well, I'm happy to teach you things. Although, maths... not my strong suit, I'm afraid. Certainly teach you other things, though. Couldn't sleep. 7 in the morning, I'm here, so I've got to go out by 10. I saw your writing challenge in Discord. You got inspired to write. Yes, I need to... Yes, oh, well reminded. I need to get that up and running again. There is an art challenge in the Discord as well now. We'll be doing those every now and then. It's just a bit of fun. Nothing serious, so don't sweat yourself. It's just if you, you know, find yourself some spare time, don't know what to do. It's a lot you can interact with. When is maths anyone's strength? I know, right? As you can tell, I was more of an English person myself. English, science, and history. That was me. Have you enjoyed the story so far? I have. It's been a while since I've read it. I've read a lot of the Lovecraft stuff a long time ago. Like I said, I do have a book. The Necronomicon. But it's been a while since I've actually sat down and reread everything. It's the same when I was rereading all the Poe stories. It's been a while since I've read things, so it's nice to come back to it. Kind of remind myself of the passion I have for this kind of darker side of things. Right, ad is about to start. You have been warned. You could be... Oh, I'd love to. See, I really wish I did history, but I was so focused on science. Bless you, Ingrid. I'm not sure if I'd... Well, I want to teach English in Japan maybe one day. That's the dream. Hopefully. Hopefully one day. Oh, it's by Neil Gaiman, is it? Oh, I didn't know that. We'll definitely check it out, then 100%. That's completely why I put the writing challenge up. Is because I love writing, and I haven't written in so long. To rename that emoji to Ingrid Coffee. Ad is starting soon, so we're going to wait for that to happen before we continue with the story. It didn't let me snooze it, if you could tell. I was going to go to Japan with she who shall not be named to propose to her, and guess she's sick. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that you're... Don't be miserable, be proud. Clearly you got out of something that wasn't supposed to work. Fate has a funny way of working like that. But that's so romantic. Oh. See, if something like that was to happen for me, I'd want somewhere like, I don't know. I wouldn't say Tokyo Tower, but that is beautiful. Be one of the beaches, in the middle of a random field somewhere. Like, in Japan, that is, not, you know, just a random English field. Somewhere definitely picturesque. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry to hear that, Joker. I truly am. I wish you nothing but the best and hope that everything works out for you. Hopefully it's nothing too crazy, although by the sounds of it it is, unfortunately. So do take care of yourself. I'm so sorry to hear that. I hope you manage to find a new chapter in your life, and one that you know is more suited for you. One that you can grab by the page. Yes, Spatul's incredibly generous. We love Spatul. If you haven't checked them out, please do. They are a wonderful bird. Oh, Ingrid, I'm sorry to hear you haven't had pleasant experiences. That's the problem. I think a lot of people nowadays are so engrossed on the internet, they almost forget how to touch grass, shall we say. Right, Atlant has ceased. So welcome back. We'll go back to the story. Grabbing her by the page, she needs to have a good spine and a cover made of silk. See, I love a good leather book. If you can give it a good sniff. I love it when it's got like the crunchy paper within within the front and back page as well. You know, like, I think it's because I liked Lara Croft when I was younger. You know, when she cuts open the book, there's like a hidden thing, hidden amulet inside the front page. I blame that. Yeah, a nice tactile book. As wonderful as it is reading things on the internet, there is nothing better than having the physical copy in front of you. Flipping that page, feeling the connection to the book. The book and its story is more than just the words. It's the whole experience of reading. It's losing hours of your time and thinking, oh bugger, where's that gone? What reality am I in? If you're like me and you have a very active imagination, a very powerful one, you can quite easily get lost in other worlds very quickly. Fred licking the books. Getting a relationship with the same gender is hard enough. Sorry to hear that's difficult. You there? You love a good leather book, didn't they? Joker, behave yourself. Well, I have to answer that question for you. Now then, before you get into trouble. See, that's the thing. When I was making my names and everything, when I was thinking of Morbid Moth, I was going to do Mistress Moth, but I thought that sounded a bit too... yeah, so I chose against it. I went for Morbid instead, because I am fascinated by the darker side of life. Well, death, I should say. Everything macabre and dark. I love it, how can you not? There's a certain beauty in the darkness. It allows you to see the light ever so much more brightly. And why a moth? Well, elephant hawk moths are a species of moth native to the south of the UK, and they are beautiful and I love them. And B, because I always want to try and find the light and help guide others over towards the light, you know? There's always a light in the darkest of times, and I hope I can help others find it. There's nothing more important to me than spreading some positivity. All I want to do, if I can make someone smile and get them a little bit more happier that day, then I've done what I set out to do. Have fun, of course. Cri de mort. Oh, that. Oh. Okay, you can't just quote some of my... you can't just go quoting some great songs now. Make you a lovely moth read. I'm fascinated by the story. Yes, need to finish the story. I'll just go quoting the Smith. Oh,
Tea time in it, bro.
thank you for the hydrate. Look, at least someone here is sensible. You would have thought it'd be hentai, but it's not hentai. Thank you for the hydrate. That's very sweet.
Your posture is regrettable. Concentrate
And
on
a
sitting
posture
straight.
check. Thank you, kind. Ooh, have a stretch with me. There we go. Thank you. Right. So they've just locked themselves in the house with the farmhouse. And something's stirring from the well. At this point, as the column of unknown colour flared suddenly stronger and began to weave itself into fantastic suggestions of shape with each spectre later described it, there came itself a poor tethered hero, such a sound as no one before or since ever heard from a horse. Every person in that low-pitched sitting room stopped his ears, and Ami turned away from the window in horror and nausea. Words could not convey it. And when Ami looked out again at the hapless beast lay hurtled inert on the moonlit ground between the splintered shafts of the buggy. That was the last of Hero till they buried him the next day. The present was no time to mourn. But almost this instant, a detective silently called attention to something terrible in the very room with them. In the absence of the lamplight, it was clear that a faint phosphorescence had begun to pervade the entire apartment. It glowed on the broad planked floor and the fragment of a rag carpet, and shimmered over the sachets of the small paintings. Ran up and down the exposed corner post, coruscated about the shelf and mantel, affected the very doors and furniture. Each minute saw it strengthen, and at last it was very plain that healthy living things must leave this house. Omni showed them the back door and the path up through the fields to the 10-acre pasture. They walked and stumbled as if in a dream, and did not dare look back till they were far away on the high ground. They were glad of the path. They could not have gone the front way, by the well. It was high ground, and as it was bad enough passing the glowing barns and sheds, and those shining orchard trees with their gnarled, fiendish contours, but thank heavens the branches did their worst, twisting height. The moon went under some very black clouds as they crossed the rusted bridge over Chapman's Brook, and it was a blind groping from there to the open meadows. When they looked back towards the valley, and the distant gardener place at the bottom, they saw a fearsome sight. All the farm was shining with the hideous unknown blend of colour, trees, buildings, and even such grass and herbage as had not been wholly changed from the leafy bitterness. The boughs were all straining skyward, tips with tongues of foul flame, and lambent tricklings of the same monstrous fire were creeping about the shelves of the house, barn, and sheds. It was a scene from a vision of Fuseli. All over the rest reigned the riot of luminous amorphins, that alien, undimensioned rainbow of cryptic poison from the well, seething, feeling, lapping, reaching, scintillating, straining, benignly bubbling in its cosmic and unrecognizable. Oh my goodness. Joker, thank you very much for the itty bitty bitty. No, not BBD, it's itty bitty bitty. There you go. Itty bitty bitty. Let's go on. There you go. You can do it. Well done, caption. Thank you. That's incredibly sweet of you. That's very kind. Oh, Ingrid, is your cough still going bad? Oh no. At least you've got your cough medicine now. Touch wood, this works for you. I know you've been very annoyed by it, haven't you, Bless? Get well soon. I hope that it helps. Even if I barely know you, I've got a good feel from you for my fellow goth soul. Oh. Well, I'm glad. Very glad. It's always lovely. fellow morbid mind. And thank you. Then, without warning, the hideous thing shot vertically up towards the sky like a rocket or a meteor, leaving behind no trail, and disappearing through a round and curiously regular hole in the clouds, before any man gasp or cry out. No watcher can ever forget that sight. The army stared blankly at the stars of the Cygnus, Deneb twinkling above the others. The unknown colour had melted into the milky. But his gaze was the next moment called swiftly to earth by the crackling in the valley. It was just that. Only a wooden ripping and crackling, not an explosion, as so many others of the party vowed. Yet the outcome was the same. In one feverish, kaleidoscopic instant, there were bursts up from that doomed and accursed farm, gleamingly eruptive cataclysm on natural sparks and substance, blurring the glance of the few who saw it, sending forth to the zenith a bombarding cloudburst of such coloured, fantastic fragments as our universe must needs disown. Through quickly reclosing vapours, they followed the great morbidity that had vanished. And in another second, they had vanished too. Behind and below was only a darkness to which the men dared not return. And all about was a mounting wind which seemed to sweep down in black, raw gusts from interstellar space. It shrieked and howled and lashed the fields and distorted woods in a mad cosmic frenzy, till soon the trembling party realized it would be no use waiting for them to shoot what was left down there to normal. Thank you very much, Joker, and that's very kind of you. Until I had my stream, that time I had my stream. Won't go away with one teaspoon. Hopefully you'll get there though. Hopefully, as you take it as a prescribed, it'll help you, my lovely. I don't want to get my expectations high, no, but you can be realistic. And hopefully it'll do what it's supposed to do. A sip of tea there. Too awed even to hint theories, the 7 shaking men trudged back towards Arkham by the north road. Army was worse than his fellows, and begged them to see him inside his own kitchen, instead of keeping straight on to town. He did not wish to cross the nighted, wind-whipped woods alone to his home. He had had an added shock of the others was spared, and was crushed forever with a brooding fear he dared not even mention for many years to come. As the rest of the watchers on the tempestuous hill had stolidly set their faces towards the road, Army had looked back an instant at the shadowed valley of desolation, so lately sheltering his ill-starred friend. And from that stricken, faraway spot he had seen something feebly rise, only to sink down again upon the place which the great shapeless horror had shot into the sky. It was just a colour, but not any colour of our earth or heaven. And because Army recognized that colour and knew that this last faint remnant must still lurk down there in the well, he has never since. Army would never go near that place again. It is over half a century now since the horror happened, but he has never been there, and will be glad when the new reservoir blots it out. I shall be glad too, but I do not like the way the sunlight changed colour around the mouth of the abandoned wet path. I hope the water will always be very deep, but even so, I shall never drink it. I do not think I shall visit the Arkham country hereafter. Few of the men who had been with Army returned the next morning to see the ruins by daylight. There were not any real ruins, only the bricks of chimney, the stones of the cellar, some mineral metallic litter here and there, the rim, as well. Save for Army's dead horse, which they towed away and buried, and the buggy which they shortly returned to him, everything that had ever been living, gone. 5 eldritch acres of dusty grey desert rim. Nor has anything ever grown there since. To this day, it sprawls open to the sky like a great spot eaten by acid in the woods and fields. The few who have ever dared glimpse into the spite of the rural tales have named it blasted. The rural tales are queer. They might be even queerer if city men and college chemists could be interested enough to analyze the water from the misused well, or the grey dust that no wind seems to ever disperse. Botanists, too. They ought to study the stunned flora on the borders of their spot. They might shed light on the country notion that the blight is spreading, little by little, perhaps an inch a year. People say the colouring of the neighbouring herbage is not quite right in the spring, and that wild things leave queer prints in the light of winter snow. Snow never seems to go quite so heavy on the blasted heath as it does elsewhere. Horses, that are left in this motor age, grow skittish in the silent valley, and hunters cannot depend on their dogs too near the splotch of grey dust. They say their mental influences are very bad too. Numbers went queer in the years after Noah's taking. But always they lacked the power to get away. Then, the stronger-minded folk all left the region, and only the foreigners tried to live in the crumbling old homesteads. They could not stay though, and one sometimes wonders what inside beyond ours their wild, weird stories of whispered magic had given them. Their dreams at night, they protest, are very horrible in that grotesque country. And surely the very look of the dark realm is enough to stir morbid fancy. No traveller has ever escaped a sense of strangeness in those deep ravines. An artist shiver as they paint thick woods whose mystery is much of a spirit as of the eye. I myself am curious about the sensation derived from my one of the lone walk before his tale. When twilight came, I had vaguely wished some clouds would gather, for an odd timidity about the deep skyey voids above crept in my soul. Do not ask me for my opinion. Do not know. That is all. There was no one but Army to question. The Arkham people would not talk about the strange day.
I'm in it, bro, for fuck's sake.
And all 3 professors who saw the aerolite and its coloured globule.
Your posture is regrettable. Concentrate on sitting straight.
Thank you. Ooh. Well, I hope it's not the C word for you. I think everyone's had enough of that as it is. Rubber Smith. I think that works quite well, to be fair. Excuse me. There were other globules. Depend upon that. One must have fed itself and escaped. Lottie, you were doing so well. You made it like 3.5 hours in. I'm so sorry. I knew it would happen at some point. I knew it would. Of course it has to happen in the last bloody paragraph. That is Lottie. She is not quite a hound of hell, but she has the spirit of one. Oh, I do apologise. Oh, you're very welcome. We've literally got a paragraph to go, so I'm going to plough through it, and then we can chill out for a bit. was saying. There were other globules, depend upon that. One must have fed itself and escaped, and probably there was another which was too late. No doubt it is still down the way. I know there was something wrong with the sunlight I saw above that miasmal brink. Thank you for the followed pride, 07. Very sweet of you. The rustics say the blight creeps an inch a year. So perhaps there is a kind of growth, nourishment, even now. But whatever demon hatchling is there, it must be tethered to something or else it will quickly spread. Is it fastened to the roots of those trees that claw at the air? One of the current Arkham tales is about fat oaks that shine and move as they ought not to do at night. What it is, and only God knows. In terms of matter, I suppose, the thing Army described would be called a gas, but this gas obeyed laws that are not of our cosmos. There was no fruit of such worlds, and suns as shine on the telescopes and photographic plates of our observatories. This was no breath in the skies whose motions and dimensions our astronomers measure, or deem too vast to measure. It's just a colour out of space, a frightful messenger from unformed realms of infinity, beyond all nature as we know it. From realms whose mere existence stuns the brain, of the black extra-cosmic gulfs it froze open before our frenzied eyes. I doubt very much if Amni consciously lied to me, and I do not think his tale was all a freak of madness as the townsfolk had forewarned. Something terrible came to the hills and valleys of that meteor, and something terrible, though I know not what in proportion, still remains. I shall be glad to see the water come. Meanwhile, I hope nothing will happen to Army. He saw so much of the thing, and its influence was so insidious. Why has it he has never been able to move? How clearly he recalled those dying words of Nahum. Can't get away. Draws you. He knows something's coming. But ain't. Army is such a good old man. When the reservoir gang gets to work, I must write the chief engineer to keep a sharp watch on him. I would hate to think of him as the grey, twisted, brittle monstrosity which persists more and more, troubling sleep. The Colour Out of Space by H.P Lovecraft. Read by the Morbid Moth. Interrupted by chat. And there we have it. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Thank you for the suggestion. I think